start in a minute. Good. Okay, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Yoni Pearl, and I'm the director of Media Central. Thank you all for coming here today. I would like to please remind you to mute your cell phones before we start. Thank you. Elections in Israel will be held in 8 days, and I would just like to update you that we're still in touch with the Blue and White Alliance, and hopefully we'll be able to confirm with them a similar event. Unfortunately, up till now, we couldn't confirm it with them. I'm very happy to have yet another press event and series of events on the 2019 elections, and to host today Speaker of the Knesset, MK Yuli Yoel Edelstein. MK Edelstein, who came first place at the Likud primaries, making him second on the list, has been the Speaker of the Knesset since 2013. Aside from a brief period in 2006, he served in the Knesset since 1996, during which time he held various positions, including Minister of Public Diplomacy and Diaspora Affairs, Deputy Minister of Immigration, and Minister of Immigration. MK Edelstein has moved to Israel in 1987. Prior to then, he was a prominent refusenik in the Soviet Union. So, with no further ado, I would like to please invite MK Edelstein to start his press briefing, which will be then followed by Q&A. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Yoni. Thank you all for coming. I'll try to be brief, and we'll be able to spend most of our time with questions, remarks, answers. Normally, before the elections, definitely when we are talking about the Likud, has been in power under Netanyahu's leadership for the last 10 years. The question during the election campaign is, so what changed during the last decade? I will try to briefly address 3 issues where I see a major change, and you are free to then address these or other issues in your questions. One is, 10 years ago, when we came into power and during the initial years of the Likud rule here, there was the basic assumption, rule of thumb. No progress on the Palestinian front, no Palestinian state, no change in the area, no change in the Middle East. That was the equation. What we are witnessing in the recent years is a kind of a different atmosphere in the Middle East, in our area in general. We see official meetings of the Israeli Prime Minister with some of his colleagues, leaders of certain Arab countries. It's, well, as we say on many occasions in this country, according to foreign press. So according to foreign press, there are lots of security contacts between Israeli security forces and representatives of different security forces in our area. Definitely, one may say, common enemy, namely Iran, helps in this issue, but I think that we definitely see the results of cyber intelligence and other types of cooperation between Israel and countries, including major countries in our area. I can myself tell you that during international conferences, international meetings, and I still remember several years ago how an Israeli representative, even the Speaker of the Knesset, had, shall I say, to walk close to the walls there, because we always knew that in a second there will be an anti-Israel resolution condemning us for this and condemning us for that. The atmosphere is different. When I attend conference of the countries of the Mediterranean or Middle East, or including these countries, in many cases there is a lot of thirst to hear the Israeli representative as far as the possible cooperation is concerned, as far as the possible use of Israeli technologies, of Israeli know-how, of Israeli startups is concerned. And I do have to say, to sum it up, that these official meetings that I mentioned of Netanyahu in Amman, or some other, his visit to Amman, or his meetings in Warsaw with different foreign ministers and leaders from Arab countries, and some of my experience that I had on the parliamentary level, it gives me hope. Because if there is something that really bothers me, is how come that when I travel in my official capacity to places dozens of miles away, when I get to China, everyone is talking to me about drip irrigation and Israeli technology and how important these things are. India, Africa, when I have a summit of speakers from different countries from Africa in the Knesset, that's what they are expecting, and that's what they are happy of, to tell me how the Israeli technology helps in different fields in their country. And 20 miles away from where we are, there's nothing of the kind. How come? In countries in our area, there is no need for drip irrigation or medical equipment or the most important Israeli technologies that could be used for the benefit of the citizens of those countries. And I think that the moment we'll be able to continue this cooperation, and the moment Palestinian leadership would get rid of that idea that they can hold hostage the whole area, if they don't come to the negotiations table, nothing's going to happen in the whole area. The moment the parameters will change, there will be both progress in cooperation with different countries, and the Palestinians will eventually arrive to the negotiations table. We'll be able to talk later, if you want to, about how we can get to the situation where negotiations will be possible. Now, the other field I will touch upon is obviously economy, and I think that I don't want to sound mystic, but I think that part of the answer, or part of the description I'll have to use, is a miracle. In the last 10 years, with all the crises around the world, with all the things that happened in developed countries in different parts of the world, I think that the stability that Israel enjoys in the recent decade is really something unheard of. Just to throw a few numbers at you, I would say that the GDP, 2009, when Netanyahu was elected, $207 billion. 10 years, or rather last year, I don't have the updated number here, it's $350 billion. PPP, purchasing power parity, something that every citizen is looking for. $26,000 2009, last year $38,000. The numbers that, as I've said, taking into consideration the fact that there were crises in many parts of the world, taking into consideration the fact that unfortunately there are still marginal, but still attempts to try to use all kinds of boycotts against Israeli product, Israeli export. I think the numbers are quite impressive. Speaking of the success of BDS and Israeli export success, inverted commas, obviously, export 2009, $60 billion, 2018, $100 billion. So we are obviously moving forward in all senses here, and slowly but gradually it gets to the level of a citizen who is less interested in big numbers on economy, but rather in the personal income. Here, if we take the average wage, it grew between 2009 and 2019 by nearly 3,000 shekels, and the minimum wage also grew up by about 2,000 shekels. And I think that it shows that the economic development of Israel really is, well, I don't want to use the same word miracle, but it's being run in a very proper way, the Israeli economy. The last but never least is the issue of international relations, the big world picture. And I think that of late we've seen great achievements of Israeli diplomacy, of Netanyahu and the government, and of the Israeli leadership. One is obviously the move of the American embassy to this city, to Jerusalem, followed by Guatemala, followed by opening of cultural offices of the Czech Republic, Slovakia. Now the Romanians are talking about it. The Brazilian president announced the opening of the commercial and trade center here in Jerusalem. So the process obviously has started. I think it's a great achievement. I think that this absurd situation in which other countries, other foreign ministries used to define which city is the capital of the state of Israel is slowly but gradually becoming our path. And yes, I know that there are many countries around the world that expressing discontent with that move. And yes, I know that the European Union announced that they are not going to move the embassies, but I think that the process has started, and sooner or later we'll see a change in this field. The same goes obviously to what happened last week, and this is the Golan Heights and the recognition, the declaration of the American president about the Golan Heights being sovereign Israeli territory. I do have to say that for me it was quite personal, because 19 years ago, 18 years ago, during the difficult years, I used to head the parliamentary caucus, the Knesset caucus for the Golan Heights. And I remember how, quite for serious, we were imagining the terrible situation that the Golan Heights could be given to Assad, to Syria, and how vulnerable Israel would have become. Now, after what happened in the recent years in Syria, I think you don't have to be a great political analyst to understand that it could be the most dangerous move probably in Israeli history. Moving from there, from having these battles just to keep the status quo, to the situation where the American president signs an official document of recognition, I think it's a great achievement, and we will continue on this front. It's not just vis-a-vis the United States. Continents that were nearly close to Israel, Africa, Latin America, many parts of Asia, are now friends, countries that we cooperate with in a lot of senses. And I sincerely hope that after the elections, when, God willing, Likud will stay in power and will continue, we will develop these relations even further. I think that if there is a classical win-win, this is the classical win-win, the relations between Israel and many countries around the world, with the use of the best practices they have, the best practices we have, and definitely technology, agriculture, medicine, all these fields, environment, all these fields are, I think, so well developed in Israel that could be really of great asset to many countries and many nations around the world. I'll put a stop here. I'm sure that right now you're already leaning towards Likud, and probably will be voting for us in a week. So now it's time to open it for questions, and I understand you'll be running the questions. Yes.
So please raise your hand before asking questions, and wait for the permission to speak. A Media Central staff member will approach